Alright, so it's time to write some code. This is the state of the function that we have currently for ActivateProfile. And currently we are going to write the code that will parse the content received from the P2C API connector, make a query to the database to check if we do have this user profile. If not, we create it. Alright, so first let's read the content of that request. So I will define here request, body as JSON, and then as a string. Currently we have it as a string. Await rec.read as a string, I think. I think when we did that, we got something went wrong. Maybe I missed something. But let's see. If there is something wrong, we can debug it. And also, I think here I have an additional 0, so we need to clean this. Okay, our function is running. ngrok is also running here, and all good. So I'll open this, click run user flow. Let's try to sign in. Should get the request. Okay, here we go. Good. Now we click continue. All right. Okay, it worked. Maybe I used read as JSON. Anyway, so if we expand the content, what actually they send? So they send like step, client ID, country, email, object ID, surname, display name, and the given name. So that's so good. Now, but the country is missing because, no, it's here. It's called country. Okay, all right. So the step is pre-token issuance because that's the one that we have chosen when we set up that Active Directory. I'm going to copy this and click continue. So the login process will continue. Oops, why it's send the request again? Yeah, because maybe Azure timed out, so it failed to submit the request. So it's fine. Now we need to just create the object that represents this, the response of this one. So I will create it as a local class inside this class, Activate Profile Request. So I'll call it B2C payload. And then in here, I'm going to define, or let's just do that. Edit, utilize some Visual Studio Power, paste special, JSON classes. Okay, that's good. So I'll call this one P2C payload. Great. And then for those, I can utilize some AI to fix the name. Use Pascal case naming and add JSON property name attribute to match the JSON. So you can do this manually, but if you have Copilot will do it for you, or you can ask ChatGPT. Those tasks are very good for this creature to help us with. All right, so let's see. Yeah, that's what we are looking for. So I'll accept this change. Here we go, we got it. Now we will using system.text.serialization. All right, we have it. That's great. We don't have to make it public. Okay, so now I can say payload equals await rec.read from JSON async, and we can define its P2C payload, just like that. And we do have it. So we have the payload. Payload, as you can see, has the object ID, which is the user ID that we are going to use for query. But to be able to create the query, we need first to know where we are going to store those user profiles. We need to create the models for them in the server data project, and we need to create a repository for that. So let's go to our database and see what we have. So this is our database. We have attachments, transactions, and wallets, 3 different containers. So where should we store the users? Mainly, maybe you are going to think that we need to create a new container called users, which is not wrong, but also not right at the same time. And in the SQL world, that's correct, but here it's not that correct, because container doesn't actually have a schema. You know, every document has its own schema, so it's all about the partition key. Transactions, if we expand the transaction, you see that we decided to go with the user ID year, which is like a synthetic partition key, consists of the user ID plus the year, while wallets is using user ID only. So it would be a good idea to store the users and the wallets in the same container. So why? First, users, we will also use the user ID as a partition key, which means each user will be logically in its own partition. But you may think that this is scalable and stuff like that, those issues. We won't have it here because our system, we need to think about the operation that we do, and basically only the admin or like the owner of the app could list all the users that he has like once in a while. So the performance of that query won't impact a lot as much as the functionality of the application. So if they are both using user ID, you can put them both here, the user profile and the wallet, inside the same container. And what we can do is we can discriminate between the two different documents using like a discriminator property here. We can call it discriminator. And for example, this one would be a wallet. And then the other document, we will call it user profile. And with that, we can keep as much documents as we can that use the same partition key to be in the same container, so we can execute queries more efficiently in case we need. If we need to retrieve like the user profile and its wallets, that's also very possible. All the queries will be in the same partition. And if we want to do some transactions, you know, Cosmos DB support transactions on the same partition, the same container. So that's also a very good way to achieve them, because keep in mind, if you are coming from an SQL background, the container doesn't represent actually a table. The container is just a logical container that contains documents. The most important property of a container is the partition key, and the more data you can fit inside it that are related to each other, that will be better. So we will put the users in here too, but we cannot actually rename a container or change its partition key. So the key is to create a new one. So I'm going to create a new container, use existing this database container ID. I'm going to call it UserData. So it means wallets, the user profile data, and maybe later on we can add more if we need, if we want to store statistics or stuff like this on the level of the user profile, or create their own documents. We'll do that later. So we do have the user data and the wallets. Right now we need to migrate those wallets to here. You can either like write some C# script, but because we only have those three, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste them just like that. Go to user data and click on new item. Just like this. Make sure that this new property is existing. So hit save. All right, very good. Now we go to items. Let's take the second one. Copy. Right, we need user, and we add here wallet. We hit save. Great, and you create a new item, which will be the third one in here. And also we need a discriminator. This word is long, but that's like kind of has been used for those. Okay, all right. So now we do have this. We can remove this container. Confirm wallets. Okay, great. The next thing we need to do before we create the users, we just need to make little adjustments in the wallets repository, because in here it will start to use user data and list. You can see right now it only searched by the partition key, which is the user ID, but that will no longer will always work because the user data will also be there. So we need to use the discriminator. So discriminator equals wallet. So it will only retrieve the wallets, the document that represents a wallet, and that have their own user ID. We need to also modify this thing in here. We need to add that property. So let's go ahead and add it. Public string discriminator wallet JSON property discriminator. Okay, so it will be a read-only property. We don't need to actually allow for setting it. Okay, great. Now we do have get by ID, create, update. Yep, all set. Now we can create our user profiles repo and model. So let's start with the model first. User profile, and make it public like that. Cleaner. So we have the ID. This is our ID in the system. It's not the user ID in Active Directory. User ID is actually the user ID in Active Directory, or the identity provider basically. So we do have it like that. This one, none of those will be null. Or I think for this, let's create a constructor. ID equals new GUID. All right. User ID, for now it's string.empty. We do have email. The display name to surname. I'm not going to use this surname. Let's rename that to last name, and let's also have first name, country. I don't think we need this. None of those. Is trying to date time offset, creation date time. All right, now we can set those like that. Creation date time, the time you see right now. That's great. We can make all of those private. Great, and I'm going to create, we need an empty constructor for the JSON serialization work, and I'm going to create also another constructor. Okay, all right. Now we do have all the properties. We don't need the ID, sorry. We just need the user ID. And we don't ask for this. So this one is being set initially, and then we call the other constructor. So this will be set in this one, and then this constructor will set the other properties. Okay, just like that. That's great. It's very simple and easy. We need JSON property names too. So we can control the name also in another way if you'd like. I'm always trying to do stuff in a different way so you can learn. So here we have done the JSON property, and we are using, newtons of the JSON. That's what Cosmos DB is using internally. But what you can do is you can go to dependency injection extension, and in the Cosmos client options, you can say naming JSON serializer options. Yep, equals new Cosmos serialization option. Here you have property policy naming, and you can say like camel case. So they will be named without defining those, but I just would like to define them. So the code is more, I can like just link them to the database when I do queries and stuff like that. But it's up to you. You can either keep it clean like this, or you can add those attributes. All right, now let's create very simple get by user ID and create user profile, and that's it. it will be get by user ID, which is the Azure Active Directory user ID. So I'll create user profiles, repository like this. All right. Task, user profile, this can be null, get by user ID, and task create async. Okay, those are the only two properties we need. Sorry, this one we forget, I think, about the discriminator, most likely. Discriminator, name of user profile. Great. So let's implement this repo very simply. We're going to create a new repository, so we call it Cosmos user profiles repository. All right. Public. So profiles can implement this interface. Okay. So we need to improve this code to remove all this redundancy, but for this moment we will just copy paste it to achieve our goal so quickly, because as you can see, both of those are using the same container. It doesn't make sense to also on the code level like indicate that they are both using the same container, because that's like a database decision, so we can keep it on the level of the database, while here we treat them as two different entities. But we can do some code sharing by like doing a base service or something like that. So create async, create will be very simple. It will just call await db.getContainer create item async, which is this is the user profile and the partition key. You can also ignore the partition key, so it will be set automatically based on the property chosen. And get by user ID, here we need to write a query. So var query equals select star from user ID equals user ID. All right, and we can ignore the discriminator here, or we can add it, because here we are searching about a single entity. Like this will actually be the ID. There would be like no multiple. It should just return one. That's the activated profile. This task will be done by the activated profile method or Azure function, because it will check if it will try to call this before it try to create a new user. So if it already exists, it will be retrieved. So there will never be in the database two users with the same ID. So c.discriminator equals user data. You can pass it also as a parameter. You can use the name of, that's fine. So var parameters, query definition with parameter. Nice. Now we create the iterator. Sorry, this is the container. And we create the iterator container.get item query, and now we just execute var result iterator.read next async, and it should retrieve only one. So we can safely say result.first or default, because it can be null, and we do have this container duplicated twice, so we can just extract like method, for example, or we can make it a field. Get container. All right, and then here you can remove this. You can say get container. Okay, so both are utilizing the same functionality. This doesn't have to be static. All right, good. So this is all the repository. It's very clear, nothing new. Basically, we just here retrieve one property. So right now, let's go to ActivateProfile and check what we need to do. So first, we need to inject that UserProfiles repo, UserProfiles repo, and then add parameters. All good. Then we go to dependency injection extensions, and we need to register this thing. User profiles. Great, that's easy. And look how easy this will be if, var payload var user equals await users repo dot get by user ID payload dot object ID. So if the user is null, then what we need to do is to create that user profile. So dot create async, I'm going to write it, and here we need to pass a new user profile, and the data is very basic. Payload.country, display name. Sorry, I need to pass them through the constructor. So I start first by, we do have the user ID. So user.user ID, payload dot object ID. Then we have payload dot email, payload dot display name, payload dot given name, payload dot surname, and payload dot country. Here we go, we got it. Easy and clear. And that's all what the method actually does. Like, it's as simple as that. Right now, whenever the user creates a new account, and then he has to log in for the first time, right? So we'll create that profile. And after that, every time he logs in, we're going to retrieve the data. And I will show you in the next video how we can add more claims if you want to retrieve the role. Like, for example, if you here added some role or stuff like this, how you can retrieve it and add it to the claim. But for now, let's just run and try to make sure that this thing is actually working as expected. So I need to create a new account. I'm always trying to log in with my same account that's existing in B2C, but not existing yet here. So we will see right now how when I log in with the same account, it should be created inside our database. And then I'll try to create a new account with a different email and see how it goes. So, okay. So we got this Azure function, and right now I will open this, click run user flow, and let's hit sign in. Okay, we got this breakpoint. Now let's go for this, check the payload. Okay, we got all the data needed. Nice. Now we should execute this query, and actually it should return nothing. So it should be null. Let's see. Yep, it's null. So now it will try to create it. Okay, we got another request. That's because we are debugging and Active Directory is waiting. Like, come on, I'm not getting a response. So it's trying again, but it's fine. We can ignore the second request by just doing that. But the first request is still going, you see. Okay, create item, return the container, create item. Item should be created, then it will return. So Active Directory sent 2 requests, and he felt boring just waiting for us. But we got our thing. So let's refresh, and look at that. We got actually a user. So we will no longer use this user ID because we have using it for testing. Right now we have actually a user, and look at that. We do have a profile that's working, and that's just cool. So I will remove this breakpoint, and then I'll try to create a new account. So just do that. I'll use a temp email. So let's use a temp email service, or disposable email. Okay, disposable email. Let's see. Let's try to use the service. Okay. Look at that. We got this email. That's not bad. So let's copy. I'll click on sign up now. And what I'll do is that I'll put this email here, hit send verification code. Okay. Verification code sent. A lot of advertisements. That's correct. Oops, here we go. We got one. No, that's not from Microsoft. Here we go. This is our email we are looking for. Our activation code. Take it, put it here, click verify. Oh, nice. Now let me put a password. Great. Now let's pick any country. And here we can say sample username. Let's click create. Do we get a request? Yep, we got it, and it's 200. So this has been logged in, and we got the access token. If we go to our Cosmos DB, click refresh, we should see another one with a different user ID, and we do have it. We do have it in here, which is that's so great. And if we go to users, I do have a lot of users here, like production users. So I'm not going through the users list, but if you go to Azure Active Directory B2C, click on your users here, you should find that user. So if that user tries to sign in, basically one more time, let's do that. Run user flow. Let's pick expenses tracker. Okay, now we signed in, and we are not going, it's not going to create a new one. Oh, it did. It created another one. So we do have something wrong with our code. Discriminator. Okay, basically it shouldn't do that, but it did. So let's check what is wrong with this. So this query has returned null, even though the user is not null. Okay, all right. Let's try to log in again and see how that is actually. You don't have to always do that. You can take the payload and try to test through Postman by submitting that payload to your function, so you don't do the exact same thing every single time. But all right, resource 0. Okay, let's check our function. See user ID. What is the user ID being passed? There we go. This is the user ID. Discriminator user data. Oh, sorry. This one is user profile. All right. So I will call it at desk. Let's do that. Dot with parameter at desk. That's the name of user profile. So no hard coding, magical string. Let's put that in here. Run that query one more time. Let's see what we'll get. Result. Oops. Okay, user profile. Still. Come on. What's happening? I'm making a lot of mistakes. Let's do this. Continue. Resource. It found 2. Here we go. Now it works. Little mistake. What we got to fix so quickly. That's so good. Now let me go over here. For refresh, we can delete this item. Okay, we have this. All good. Now we got this one return. So perfect. Now it's working as it should be. We do have a profiles that when the user logs in, we will see data. When the user logs out, we will see data and all this kind of things. And all good. Right now, when we publish online, we can protect at the authentication mechanism. And the next thing we will see is the token, and we will try to submit that token through the postman, so we can extract the user ID from, like for example here, we always hard-coded, and we do have a lot of to-dos, like fetch the user ID from the access token. So we can see how we can get it from there. Just little work to achieve that, but that's our next goal. I hope you enjoyed this video. I found it pretty interesting. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one, and see you there.